Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name's Emma Lefebvre, and today we're going to be painting some simple watercolor greenery that's perfect to put in your floral bouquets. So let's jump in and get started. Okay friends, today we are going to be painting some fun and easy greenery that are going to be great additions for your loose watercolor bouquets, and it's just going to give you some really great options of different shapes, colors, and styles that you can add to your floral work. And I find that doing leaves sometimes is just really great therapeutic practice. It doesn't feel as maybe stressful as florals. It's a little bit on the easier side and just really fun to do. So today I'm going to be painting in my Light Wish sketchbook. I also have this travel palette from Alchemist X's Journey. I did a review on this as well. This is the travel palette, and the reason why I'm using this one today is because I have put my Daniel Smith green paints in here, which I absolutely love. I have Cascade Green, Jadeite Green, Serpent, I don't remember what they're called. Either way, they're greens. You can check out that video of me filling this palette to see what's in there, but I love these four greens, so I wanted to use them today, and this is the only palette I have it in. And then as far as brushes, I have a size 8 round, a size 2 round, and also this filbert. Not sure if I'm going to use it, but we're going to play around with different shapes and see how it goes. Okay. So for the first one, I want to keep it pretty simple, but there are some rules that I like to follow when I am doing greenery. And that is that there should be no completely straight lines. To get a better flow in your bouquets and your greenery, you always want to have some sort of curve to your work. And by that, I mean, as an example, here's just like a scrap piece of paper. If I'm doing a stem of leaves, I never want the stems to be coming out like on a right angle. You know what I mean? They just look really stiff and jagged, and I just don't like it. What I like to do is always have a slight curve, okay, instead of like a straight line, slight curve to my stems. Same thing with the little stems coming out for the leaves. Instead of this L shape, as you see here, you want more of a V shape. Like this. All of the little stems should be kind of like a V shape, and it just gives better flow to your greenery. See that? Okay, so always think of a V instead of like an L, all right? Okay, so for the first one, I'm going to start with this darker green, and I'm going to do just a really small kind of curve, and we're going to do some bigger leaves, some really simple bigger leaves. Now you can always do them in one stroke, and I have talked about this stroke before in the past, where you go light pressure, drag, heavy pressure, back up to light pressure to get this like perfect leaf shape, and you do it again to kind of make it a little bit bigger. Now this is the basic stroke of how to do a leaf, but as you may see, there's an inconsistency within the darkness and lightness of this, and that's because the lighter areas have already started to dry. And when you do the stroke, when you lift up your brush like that, you tend to leave a little puddle at the tip there. Now, I don't mind that look when it dries, but some people don't really like it when you have this kind of like harsh line there. So it isn't cheating. You can always go back over the shape and just evenly distribute the paint and water so it all dries more flat, okay? And if there's still a little bit of a puddle, you can always tap your brush off on your paper towel and then just lift it up like that, okay? And there you have your leaf, and it will dry really nice and flat. And sometimes I will say go back in with some darker pigment, so more pigment than water on your brush, and you can tap it into the base there just to get a little bit of darkness. And again, if you feel like it's pooling a little bit too much and it dries a little bit weird, just dry off your brush and just kind of move it around, distribute that water and paint evenly. Okay, and then that will allow it to dry a little bit differently. These paints that I'm using, these greens, are granulating colors, which I really, really love. You're going to see some separation. You're going to see some inconsistencies, but I kind of love that about these paint So that's why I'm using them today. Okay, so there we have our first one. Again, remember our V shape, okay? You don't want it to go straight out. This one I'm going to do a little bit lighter of a wash because it's also really nice to have contrast within your greenery. If they're all the same darkness, it can just look a little bit more flat. So I like to actually add some water to my brush, maybe even touch another leaf and have some light values. You can even add a little bit more darkness, maybe just to the base or around the side, just to make it look a little bit more interesting, okay? Gives a little bit of variety within that one stem. And then you can go really dark with some other ones, okay? Maybe it's a really dark leaf. Like so, like that. And then I'm curving that one a little bit more. And I'm just going to curve it down a little bit. So instead of just going straight, I'm just going to curve it down, lift up, and it just gives it a little bit more movement. Okay, so there's our first stem of leaves, and that's kind of my basic go-to greenery that I would put within my watercolor florals, okay? Another one I love to do is eucalyptus, like that dollar, is it dollar eucalyptus? Where they're a lot more rounded. I'm going to use some Cascade Green for this. This is like the perfect eucalyptus color, but I also want some brown. So I'm going to take some red and some green. Yes, I'm making it very contaminated. That's fine. And I'm just going to start with, again, a loose, very kind of slightly curved stem, like so. I'm going to wash off my brush. I'm going to grab my Cascade Green. And for this, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go light pressure, heavy pressure, and then I'm just going to round the tips. So it's kind of like this circular leaf. Okay. Now, if you want to, you can always try this with a filbert brush, which has a naturally round tip, which might even be easier. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my Cascade Green. I would take maybe the brown and just give yourself an idea of where some of these stems are going to be. Okay. Like that. Or you can always do them after. It's up to you. And take my Cascade Green, and I'm just going to start from the top here. And then I'm going to just kind of lift it up so it's a little bit more pointed there. I'm going to wash that off. Try it a different way. I don't usually do leaves with this brush, but there's no saying you can't. Also, if I wanted to do a leaf in front of the stem, maybe like more of a flat leaf, like you wouldn't see the, what's it called? The stem part that kind of connects it, you could always just go right over top like that. It's nice when it's not all so uniform and there's a little bit of kind of, you know, just a difference in shape and size and how many leaves, how big they are. You can do some lighter, like I was talking about. Here's one here. I'm going to switch back to my other brush because I feel like I like it a little bit better. And if you find that there's like a shape here that it feels like there needs to be a leaf, you can always add one before the stem. Grab your brown, touch it gently. And you can always touch the base of your leaves with a bit of brown like that as well. And I find this is just a really fun one to do. And just try and make it as different as possible. I'm going to grab a little bit more the color. I'm going to add a little bit of a line in the middle. These are still wet, so it's kind of like a loose, blurred out line. But it just looks so nice. I'm going to do another really light one. So I'm just going to wash off some of this color. Really light one here. And it's just like a circular leaf. And if you have to draw it with the tip of your brush, you can. Like that. And I love, love, love this color for eucalyptus specifically. It's perfect. Okay, so there is another one. Let's do one that has some longer leaves. There's plenty of different kinds. There's like a weeping eucalyptus, kind of like seeded eucalyptus or ferns. I don't know. There's so many different ways to go, but I don't know any specific one that I'm kind of emulating here, but just one with longer leaves is the goal. So I'm going to just make my brown again. Grab a little bit of this green. And I'm going to go this way this time. Okay. And I'm going to give myself some of those little tiny stems. Like that. Like that. And then I'm going to grab a green. I'm going to try a different green this time. And with this one, you're doing that same stroke as this, and you can go from the tip or the base, it's up to you. You're just going to use the heavy pressure a little bit longer, and you're going to try and curve your brush so it gives it some movement. So I'm going to start up here, and I'm just going to light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure, and come right back to that stem. And instead of doing 2 strokes to make it thicker, I'm going to use just the 1 stroke to make it a thinner leaf. Okay, I'm going to start from here. I'm going to twist my brush, curve it, and lift. This is one of my favorite leaves to do just because you can be so loose with it. I'm going to try, yeah, that. And again, you can always go back in with some more color. Adding a little bit of darkness in there if you'd like. I love the way that looks. If you feel like you need to add some more stems, you can always do that, or you can just go right in with some paint first and then add the stem later. I'm going to have this one kind of pointing down. So I went light pressure, heavy pressure, still heavy pressure, curved it down to light pressure, and it just gives it a little bit more of an interesting kind of movement to it. This one I'm going to have curving and overlapping that one. So I'm going to go light pressure, heavy pressure. I'm going to bring this one up like so. So fun. I find leaves are one of my go-to things to paint when I don't know what to paint, or I just feel maybe anxious that day and I want to paint something that's going to make me feel calm. This is one of those things. I'm going to do another one that's kind of overlapping here. Like that. And then like that. Okay, I feel like there needs to be one up here in the center. And you can always adjust it as needed. Grab our brown, just add a little bit of a stem, like so. And there is our second piece of greenery. Third. Okay. Now I'm going to go for another one, but this one's going to be a little bit smaller. I really like smaller, detailed kind of greenery in my bouquets. I'm going to start with just some green stems. I'm going to do a couple. They're going to branch off of each other like this. And then this one, all you're doing is you're using the tip of your brush and you're just tapping 2 little strokes together. Like that. And it's nice to have a little bit of contrast in size as well in your bouquets. And this is just tap, 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 tap. Maybe I'll do another one over here. Tap to tap. And I'm trying to also remember it's not right on a like right angles like that L shape. We still want that V shape, even though these are tiny. That V shape is going to give it better flow. These are so much fun to do. I love doing these ones. And they're such a great addition to bouquets, I find. And so easy. Okay. Another greenery, we can do something a little bit more similar to this one, but maybe a bit shorter and darker. It's totally up to you. Let's try this green with this green. We're just mixing greens here. I'm going to do one over here. We're just going to fill this page with some greenery. And we can go and do something a little bit more, not as pointed, but a little bit more longer, but rounded. Like this. Have some kind of rounded tips. So instead of going to a point like that, you're just going to take your brush and you're just going to round it at the edge. You could do this with your filbert brush as well. This would work. And you can also mix greens. Like you can have different greens. Actually, this is perfect with this brush. You can have different greens within one kind of a sprig of leaves, of greenery. Okay, we can have some darker leaves. Maybe there's two. I'm going to use that. We can go and overlap the stem a bit so it looks like it's in front. Have a little one. It's actually really easy to do with a filbert. And you can always wash off your brush, do some just light leaves like we were talking about before. Maybe I'll do another quick stem over here. Like that. And then you can always go back in with a little bit more darkness at the base. Just kind of tap it in there. Like so. Okay, and then I think for our last one, we can do something a bit bigger. So I love having these sizes, but also like a really nice chunky kind of leaf coming out from underneath a rose or a peony is really nice. So let's use our Cascade Green again. Why not? So I'm going to do two here. I'm going to start with a stem kind of branching off, and I try not to have them like side by side exactly the same like this. I try and like stagger it a bit so it looks interesting. And then I'm just going to kind of like jiggle my brush so it has like this kind of jagged edge. I'm going to come back, jiggle it a little bit more. It's like a little bit wavy. Fill it in like so. Or you can even take the tip of your brush and just give it this pointed edge. So just, I'm like giving it the point of the brush and then just kind of dragging back like that. And I'm going to go back in with a little bit more color. Make it a little bit darker maybe around the edges. I love this color. Like, look at that explosion. So pretty. Like that. And then let's do one over here. So I'm just going to do this like big leaf shape. And then I'm just going to turn my page a little bit. And I'm just going to give it that kind of jagged pointed edge. Like that. I'll lift up the color a little. Add a little bit maybe of darkness in the middle. You can even add a different green. Doesn't have to be the same one. Just make it interesting. Add a little bit of darkness under this leaf just so it looks like that one is kind of popping out on top. Like that. And there you go. So there are 6 different options of leaves that you can add to your bouquets. As far as placement in your bouquets, one suggestion, I do have, I think, some videos on this, but just as a quick little kind of tutorial, let's pretend that there's some really loose flowers here, okay? They're not going to be good. I'm going to have a flower there, then I'm going to have another flower here, and then another flower down here. Okay, so say we have a bouquet. I usually tend to work in odd numbers. I have no idea what flower I'm doing. This is a mess. It's fine. You get the point. Okay, so there's a yellow flower here. Where I place my greenery within my bouquets is in between two flowers. So this is going to be kind of messy because it's very, very wet. But so we have this orange flower and then this yellow flower here. I will do a small stem. I'm going to curve it. It's never going to come straight out. I'm going to curve it and then have my leaves curving around that stem. I'm going to have another one here. Curve. And then another one down the middle, usually like that. Again, remember having some differences in contrast. So with color, having some lighter, some darker really makes it pop. Okay, I typically tend to do like the same leaves within, like in between each one, and then I'll branch out and add different types, just so it looks a little bit more balanced, but always curving it around the leaves, or the flowers, sorry. Maybe like this. And then I'll pick another leaf that I think will go really nicely. So maybe some of this one, whatever this one was. And I'm just gonna branch off from here, maybe, and do some longer leaves. Like that. We can have some kind of coming out this way. Like that. But the key is to, one, have those stems curved, and two, to have them tucked in there really nicely. So you'll never see a stem of mine that comes out like this and then some leaves at the end. If there's too much white space there, it looks odd. You want to really tuck it into where these flowers are so it frames it nicely, and have them all kind of close together like a nice tight bouquet. Okay, maybe we can do some of those eucalyptus. Okay, I'm gonna have them nice and close together. You can even have some like right behind the flower. Okay, but those curves in your stems are really what's gonna make it flow nicely. Okay, and tucking those flowers and those leaves really nice and close to the flowers, and I would just build on that. Okay, so there are some ideas. Obviously these flowers are not complete. You could finish them and add detail and all that because they're just kind of blobs right now, but you kind of get the idea. And I hope that that was helpful. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a great day, guys. Bye.